It's the same lesson you learned as a kid. Let everyone play. Not just your friends or the popular kids, but the ones who seemed different. The ones who just needed a chance. Not just because at one point or another, we all learned firsthand how it felt to be the one left out, but because we also learned the one who seemed different is quite often extraordinary.
Hello and welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today. I think I can speak for all of Ricoh that International Women's Day has become a cornerstone that we look forward to every year. I've also had the pleasure of watching it grow at Ricoh from an idea when one team member raised her hand 9 years ago to what has become today a global tradition where thousands of Ricoh team members, customers, family, and friends all join together in a call to action for progress around the world. Everyone here today is part of that tradition, and for that, we thank you. Around the world, International Women's Day celebrates the social, economic, cultural, and political accomplishments of women. It also serves as a powerful reminder of the vital journey still underway. Gender parity will not happen on its own. It requires every one of us to stand up, to take action, and to advocate for a better future for women, girls, and all gender expansive people everywhere. We're all here today, men and women alike, because everyone plays a role in forging gender equity. And it is not solely a women's issue, it's an economic issue. So here we are, proud to join companies, governments, and people everywhere in this call to action. And we're excited to celebrate International Women's Day 2024 with all of you. We have a fantastic event in store for you today. We're delighted to have Chris Plonsky, Chief of Staff and Executive Senior Associates Athletic Director for Texas Athletics, here with us today to talk about building championship cultures using I's, E's, and D's. But before we jump in, I'd like to introduce Karsten Brun, our President and CEO in North America, who'd like to share some thoughts with us. I know that Karsten is passionate about diversity, equity, and inclusion. His personal philosophy that everyone is a leader is also so applicable in our conversation today. Without further ado, Karsten, over to you.
Thank you very much, Donna, and really great to be here today. And I'm so thrilled to also welcome you all here today. You know, we all know that the path to women's equality has been a long and very challenging. And as Donna shared, gender parity will not happen by itself. As a society, our journey is still well underway. I am particularly passionate about this year's theme, Inspire Inclusion. Here at Ricoh, we have what we call our culture of excellence. And for us to work together successfully, we must all respect, appreciate, and also support each other. And we must make sure everyone is given equal opportunities. Inclusion plays such an important role in achieving gender equity. And as Donna shared, I believe strongly that everyone is a leader. It doesn't matter if you are in a leadership position. Leading is about how we each show up with an open mind, create an environment where everyone is welcome and also accepted as their true authentic self, and inspire inclusion also every day. As you listen to what I know will be a powerful story from our keynote speaker, Chris, today, I really encourage you to think about how you too will inspire inclusion, whether it be driving advancements for young women in athletics, education, membership, and leadership opportunities, or advocating as an ally for diversity, equity, and inclusion. Chris truly embodies what it means to inspire inclusion. So on behalf of Ricoh North America's executive management team, I would like to thank you all once again for joining us today. So now I will turn it back to Donna.
Thank you, Karsten. I echo your sentiments. Collectively, everyone, everywhere can strive for inclusion. And in today's environment, it's more important than ever. It's also vital that we invest in the ways we inspire inclusion, whether it be through the mentorship programs, educational workshops, advocacy campaigns, or even events like this. Individuals and organizations can create opportunities for women to thrive. Likewise, promoting diversity in leadership will always be important. Studies such as McKinsey & Company's Women in the Workplace report continue to show that women, particularly those belonging to underrepresented groups, face barriers when seeking leadership roles. According to McKinsey & Company, the number of women in the C-suite has increased from 17 to 28% since 2015, and the representation of women at the vice president and senior vice president levels has also improved significantly. This is a trend that Ricoh has mirrored as well, with 30% representation of women in our Ricoh North America executive team today. And we're also very proud to say that in 2023, 40% of all hires in North America were women, as part of our effort to increase the total number of women in our workforce, which today is currently 34%. Advancement of women's roles in the workplace is really something to celebrate, and yet it still shows how much further we have to go. Now, with that, I have the great honor of introducing our guest speaker today. Chris Plonsky serves as Chief of Staff and Executive Senior Associate Athletics Director for Texas Athletics and is University of Texas Senior Woman Administrator for Conference and NCAA Governance. In her role, Chris supervises staff leaders in student athletic services such as academics and learning, enrollment management and eligibility, compliance and risk management, sports medicine, health, wellness, and strength performance, which also includes nutrition, behavioral health, and applied sports science. In addition, she assists with Forever Texas programming that pertains to student athlete career readiness, leadership development, branding, and personal development. Chris is in her 35th year at the University of Texas and previously worked in athletics administration at the Big East Conference office at Iowa State University and at her alma mater, Kent State University. Further, Chris is also a USA Basketball Board member and chairs the Board of Trustees of the Women's Basketball Hall of Fame. Now, without further ado, please join me in welcoming Chris Plonsky.
Donna, thank you so much, and Karsten, you as well. And I celebrate all of you for this inspirational International Women's Day event. I have such great fondness and respect for Ricoh. Your company has been a longtime partner of our University of Texas here in Austin and our UT system, helping our employee base and our students with better communication, better systems, better equipment. Because here at universities, our mission and our strategic plans are all built around excellence and championship cultures. We use that word championships often in athletics, clearly, because we compete and we're dealing with a population of 17 through 23-year-old young men and women and a large staff here in athletics of about 380 employees, all of whom are trying to represent our wonderful university with an academic reputation of one of the best in the world, and trying to be the best asset we can to our campus reputation. I think that as we think about that word championship culture, that's what Ricoh has. Your employee base, those you serve, the collaborations that all of your employees work to serve your customers and your patrons better. There's a lot of that goes on at every division on a college campus, and in particular athletics. And we're living in a time of a little bit of challenge with regard to some very words that are on our screen. What is the definition of inclusion and equity and perhaps even diversity in the year 2024 and beyond? As we know, our country is in a constant state of change, and with conflicts across the globe, economic challenges. We all have to, I think, try to look at ourselves in the mirror and determine what part we all can personally play to not only make our own lives and our surrounding family, friends, colleagues, workplace better, but also have that carry on for our communities and indeed the world. We should not think small. And in challenging times, as we are, I think sometimes it helps to look backwards. I'm a history buff, being a journalism major in college at Kent State. Sometimes it helps to go into the past and to re-examine how we got here today, and to not forget that in those days, the challenges may have been even greater than they are today. I'm a pretty voracious reader, and I always like to give you a couple of notes and tips on some good reading material when I do presentations. But I can tell you that a couple of books that I've read recently have helped me kind of manage what comes across my screen or my digital devices of today's news and challenges. And one is a great book I'm sure you've all heard of, which is Lessons in Chemistry by Bonnie Garmis. It takes place, the setting is in the early 60s, of a female chemist who, again, think about a chemist in those days. She probably didn't see many other women who were in that field. She was probably in an unconventional role. But the story is beautiful because it evolves into a chemist becoming a cook and having a cooking show. And again, it's sort of like changing the status quo of what a female was viewed like and what a female could do in those days. There's also another great book, since I am in athletics and sports, one called The Big Time. And this one takes place more in the late 60s, early 70s, but especially in the 70s. That's when I came of age. I was about 12 years old when Title IX passed in 1972, that historic legislation that really did open doors for higher ed access for women and people of color. And it did change the dynamic for what I think generations of people were able to dream about and achieve because glass ceilings were broken and roofs were lifted. But the book, The Big Time, talks about how in the 70s especially, how sports changed the fabric of society. I think you all remember Billie Jean King in 1973 in a televised tennis match against Bobby Riggs. And I was, again, not very old, but I remember seeing that unbelievably athletic and accomplished professional tennis player being challenged in front of a large audience and a global TV audience and succeeding. And what we all felt as women on that day, that she did something special, and maybe so could we as we aged and went on through our lives. And again, if all of you are movie buffs the way I am, and you watch movies like Oppenheimer, I was fascinated by that movie, and so fascinated by the people in the movie that I went back and found a book that was written in actually 1957 by a faculty member about the relationship between Lawrence, who was one of those brilliant engineers and in charge of that project, Manhattan Project, along with Oppenheimer. But to read about people in the setting of the 40s and what they were doing and following orders from the government to help our country get through a global conflict, it was incredible. So again, the past sometimes can help us understand the present, the tough present. And I'll tell you a couple of stories just personally, again, because we've all gone through stages of our careers where it hasn't been easy, especially if we have been females in unconventional or conventional roles. My mother was an RN, and that was a conventional role for her when she went to college in the 50s. But I think as she would grow up in that era, she would look around and probably understand that that was probably what she as a female was expected to do, maybe be a nurse or a teacher. Well, society changed those expectations. And so did economic pressures of, households having to have two people working, and those type of things, I think, changed the opportunities for women to become more used to getting into areas of significance in law and science and engineering and business. I think about this every day with our male and female student athletes here at UT. It's like I said, an energetic, wonderful, fun group. We have 21 sports. We're about half men, half women in our student population, and they all think and do things the same way. They want to be excellent in their field. They want to train hard. They want to compete hard. They're here getting a degree, and they want to go on to be a productive and successful citizen. It's our role as administrators to help them achieve that along with their coaches. And I do really believe that being competitive is one of those variables and traits that anybody, even if you're not a superstar athlete, learning how to be competitive and every day going through the grind and showing resiliency and grit in a schedule, a pattern, can help all of us transfer those skills into working roles. I affectionately reverse in my title of my presentation. Carson represented DEI, and we all know what is being conversed about today in DEI. So I looked at the I's, the E's, and the D's and sort of inverted that acronym. So I kind of have come around to not being stressed about the way those things are being talked about today, but to really think about how they've influenced me in my life and you and yours. For me, the I just means in. It can refer to inclusion, certainly, for divisions and departments, but the in to me is whatever situation you're in, you are responsible for making others feel welcome. They need to feel like they're in as well. So the I could be the in and inclusion, and working to get in is where that competitive piece comes in. We had to work a long time before some of us broke into women's athletics. I remember in my first job at Iowa State, it was a wonderful start. And I remember working my first football game in a press box and seeking out a ladies' room at a break and a quarter, and there was no ladies' room in the press box where I was working. And you might think that's stunning, but it was, the fall of '79, and they weren't probably used to seeing many women in a press box. I think now about that scene in the movie Hidden Figures where this brilliant, mathematician, the female working, and she has to leave and walk a half mile out of her building because there is no facility in her general area for her to take a break. And thankfully, the actor Kevin Costner, who played the boss in that movie, went out and took a pretty big pickaxe and ripped down the sign and said, "There's no more labeling on rooms where people can take a break." So again, that was a very visual display of we're going to make sure that we fix a situation that isn't quite right. The E, obviously we know what E mostly stands for in DEI, and it is equity. And I referred to Title IX, and that was a benchmark federal law that allowed so many changes to occur, certainly in federally funded programs, and that meant higher ed. But for the E in all of my life, and I think probably yours as well, has stood for excellence. Excellence is the only bar. In fact, the bar truly, as I've learned from coaches here at Texas, is perfection. And if you fall short of perfection, you're very likely excellent. And so excellence is a bar that we all should shoot for, and it's one that we communicate often here. The D, again, the D for me has been do. Just do it, achieve. To me, in any work environment and education environment, doing the work, competency roles. And certainly, if you're competent, you will get noticed, you will be promoted, and people will notice your skills and give you the opportunities. I also think in that competitiveness and competency, remaining consistent is very, very important. I've had bosses who were so even keeled, regardless of strife or triumph. I have learned so much because I'm, by ethnicity, I think a little bit emotional, and I can be up and down at times, but I've really had to work hard in my career to be consistent and level-headed as I've advanced into leadership roles, because I think it serves people well if they can be very consistent in their delivery, how they are with people, and certainly in a work environment. And above all, I think communication, another of my favorite C's, communication skills cannot be underscored enough. And communication isn't always about talking or how you talk. It can be about listening and sensing and knowing how to deal with the individual in front of you or a group of individuals. You know, teams and cultures are built on trust, and you can't establish trust without excellent communication and also sensitive communication. That's the listening and the sensing and knowing what your audience is feeling, and that you can be responsive and empathetic to that. I think that Ricoh, like most companies, and certainly my company, my athletics department, we operate in a team environment. There's very few things that can be achieved by an individual or alone. We need to be the best individuals we can be within a team. But teams and building championship cultures is about inspiring people to play their role to a level of excellence, so that the greater whole, the greater good, the company can be better. And there are certain things that are very important in that process of being the best individuals we can be. You know, I'm 66. I've been at UT almost 36 years, as they noted in my intro. And I've learned very much over time that being self-healthy and self-caring is very important for me to be at my best. And I think that's a tip that I've learned watching other people in high stress or high leadership roles. When you're the very best of health in your own life, you can deliver your best to other people that count on you to be that consistent, trustworthy leader every day. So we do a lot of, sort of caring activities around here for our employees and our student athletes as well. We talk about prioritizing our own care, our own health. We think about, there's a lot of sensitivity as to body image, especially among a female student athlete population, 17 to 23-year-olds. I mean, let's all put ourselves back in high school or college. They're all very sensitive about how they look, where they're going, how people perceive them, and social media has certainly magnified that. So we have a Bodies in Motion program. And again, regardless of what your body is or looks like, being in motion, staying healthy, exercise, etc., very important. So again, building that self-esteem, self-confidence, trust in self builds the trust to make young people, at least here, into, to me, future and great leaders. I also think that good exercises like Clifton Strength Finders, we have some staff here who are experts in the delivery of that product. And again, that's about finding what is right and good about each individual. You know, sometimes those studies start with, what can I do better? What do I need to do better? That's all fine and good, I think. But to go through an exercise like Strength Finders, which really helps identify for people what their strengths are. Where am I really, really good? Because when those good qualities are amplified, that's when people consistently get better in their work and consistently are better in their advancement. Again, I'm big on kudos. I like to wish people well after they've achieved something. I also like to be there when they've stumbled. That's the great thing about athletics. Every day there's a win or a non-win in our competitions, and we've got to be there to be a positive impact for that team or those individuals each day, and certainly for the coaches who coach them. Well, our businesses are no different. You can know when somebody needs a lift or needs a good word, or if it's somebody's birthday or anniversary, and knowing that and knowing how to communicate that, hey, I know it's your special day. What a lift that is for people. So as chief of staff here for working alongside our great boss, Chris Delcani, I try to be sort of the person every day that can know who our people are, what day they might be celebrating something special, or if they have something going on in their family, I remind our people, like, let's be sure to keep an eye on those individuals. Especially for our student athletes, we even have a weekly cares meeting. I kind of gather up all those service people that I have the good fortune of leading. And we don't talk about the ones that are doing great in that meeting. We really ask who's wobbly right now, who's going through a tough time. And let's be sure that all of our staff members in these care areas keep eyes on. And it tends to really sort of sensitize our work. Sometimes we can be bureaucratic at times in the way we go about operations, but when you're talking about people and you really heighten your sensitivity about personal feelings, it seems to make us all do better work and become better employees. So again, I am so thrilled to daily see the impact of a company like Ricoh and its employee base in my community and my campus. The key rep here is a female, and I love to see her and her team and how they've impacted our work, made us better employees, made us better divisions, and really bring new ways of doing better business to our table. They've helped us so much in our transitions as we get ready to go to a new athletic conference in midsummer. We're going to the Southeastern Conference and leaving a great Big 12 conference that has been good to us. But Ricoh has really helped us in that transition as we head toward a new conference, because technology is top of mind for us, and efficiency and being better efficient in our work is primary for our bosses and for our leadership. So again, I hope that all of you are inspired by your company and its dedication to making sure that there are opportunities for everyone. And those little tips about how to help people arrive at their best level of excellence, we can all partake in that. I think that's what good leaders do. Good leaders allow people to work to achieve and to aspire to help a greater good. And they all think it's the employee's idea and not necessarily the leader's. So I know how open-minded and receptive that Ricoh leadership is to their employee base. And that's why your company is one of the best in the world today. So I'm happy to, again, take any questions you might have. Again, we're in a thick of exciting time. March Madness is upon us in basketball season. Our teams are playing at a high level, as many others are across the country. I know everyone loves the NCAA basketball championship during this time of the year, and our spring sports are in full swing. We'll be proud to cheer on an Olympics this summer in Paris. That's another kind of sort of a global unification event where we'll see countries all over the world bring their best to Paris and celebrate a wonderful Olympic Games this summer. And I know that everyone enjoys that. It comes every 4 years for the Summer Games, but we're excited about LA hosting those games in 2028. So you might peer 4 years ahead of 24, because LA will have those games in 2028. And it's going to be great for our nation and certainly for the LA community.
That's great. And thank you, Chris. I have to say that was incredibly inspiring. First, very happy that the Ricoh team and Ricoh as a whole can provide such great support to you. And please know we will continue to do so. So very excited about that. Now, you brought up some incredible points and great reminders that I wrote down, as I'm sure did many of our listeners. Championship culture and creating that seemed like a direct tie to the culture of excellence that Karsten was speaking about and that we're working towards here in Ricoh North America. Reminders of the part that each of us can play and not to think small. So too often we limit in a narrow way, maybe what we're thinking. Great reminder. I loved the I, meaning in, making sure all feel welcome, and the E for excellence as the only bar. That was great. And the do, just do it. We need to be the people that just do it. So I think you gave us a number of things that we can take home with us and begin applying every day. Now, as people registered to attend today's event, we asked everyone what they were looking to learn today and if they had any questions for you. There were a lot of common trends in the responses that we received. And fortunately, we have a little bit of time to dig into a few. So let's go ahead and get started. First, and this was the most commonly asked question, people are wondering, what is it like to head, lead, and succeed as a woman in the athletics field, which is often still perceived as male-dominated?
It's a great question, and one that those of us who are in athletic roles, leadership roles, receive often. And I will tell you that it's been a journey, and not always linear in terms of the success pattern. But I will tell you that high bar that you set for yourself in terms of do excellent work and become dependable. That seems to have served me well throughout my career. You know, I started as a publicist in women's athletics. I had a journalism degree and wanted to stay in sports. I thought I was going to be a reporter covering sports, but was fortunate enough to get hired by the campus publicity office for sports. And again, as my passion, and I think that's another key word, passion. When you show passion and competency in your work, and you can be trusted to do more, you will get more. You will get more responsibility. And so the career for me was really about, as sports and society changes, like I said, when I read that book, The Big Time, boy, did the memories flood back, because that's when I was going to high school and college. And I thought about, gosh, maybe I was just so lucky to be coming out of college in 79 when they were beginning to accept women's sports. Title IX was about 7 years old and they were beginning to hire women. But I will tell you that it took, frankly, some men in powerful chairs to make decisions to hire women. I did have some great female role models here when I got to Texas in the early 80s. My first employment here was in the early 80s when Austin was 325,000 people, by the way. It was amazing how small this city was. I thought it was the best kept secret on the planet. But again, I had a boss here named DeLoss Dodds, who one day in an athletic director's meeting told his colleagues, he said, look at all of us, look at this table. This has to change. We have to expand and get people that don't look like us into positions like this. I so admired his attitude. And again, he was one of those men who helped make that happen.
That's great. A great example. And thank you. It had to be a tough road, because it's been a long road for sure, especially in athletics. So great progress, and definitely champion all that you've done. Now, keeping that in mind, many of our attendees mentioned that they have children that are either entering college or just getting started in their careers, and they're wondering, what advice do you most often give to students? And how do young women evaluate the opportunities open to them in today's work environment?
Yes. I think there's no greater time for a female especially, but anyone, to be on a college campus. That COVID period gave everyone great pause in how to reevaluate their environments for work, and certainly from university perspectives, learning. And so when things opened up again, I think everything was different and a little more advanced with regard to how we could present learning in a special way. I would encourage young people, again, when they're on their own in school for the first time, to remember that it's going to go very fast. A 4-year, 5-year period of time when you're achieving that degree, it'll seem like an ocean of time in front of you, but it goes so quickly. And so every day, carve out a little time in addition to your classes. And again, good exercise, good diet, something fun with your friends, but go discover something that you don't know anything about. Universities are bastions of places to unearth things that you might never have thought you would be interested in. And the second thing is, I had an academic counselor who once told me that students don't use their phones, they live in them. I would encourage young people to not live in their phones, to put them in their pockets, have them there for their needs, but to learn how really to communicate directly with people and to be fearless in terms of walking up and introducing them to people they may not know. Start with faculty and staff. That's why they teach. They want to help young people. But go join a club. Go do something different. Do something in addition to your coursework to build that resume and to make it look like you were trying to expand your horizons every step along the way, quarter by quarter or semester by semester.
Yeah, great advice. Absolutely.
As Amy Poehler once said, go win college. That's my big advice.
Great advice. And I loved your go discover something you don't know about. I mean, we all should take every opportunity to do that because there's so much out there and so much available. So that's fantastic. Now, the next question that we received was, we know that you're a longtime advocate for women in basketball and the chair of the Board of Trustees of Women's Basketball Hall of Fame. How have you overcome challenges in gaining recognition for women's achievements? And do you feel it has contributed to the growth of women in sports, either at the collegiate level or beyond?
You know, this Women's Basketball Hall of Fame board opportunity that I'm on now is sort of the almost close to a capstone of my passion for the sport. I played it. I bounced the ball so often in my mother's basement. I thought she was going to take the ball away from me as I practiced my dribbling and passing against her walls. But she understood, you know, how much I love the game and I wanted to learn about it to hopefully have a career in sports. But it is amazing to me where women's athletics, period, is today, and especially women's basketball. If you'd ever told me that a young girl who went to high school in Des Moines, Iowa, and played at the University of Iowa, Caitlin Clark, could be a household name, 30 years ago, I would have said, I hope that's the case. But to experience it and to see the millions of viewers, their game the other day against Ohio State capped and peaked at 4.42 million viewers. It was the highest watched network game on Fox this year involving a women's basketball team. And I actually think ever on Fox. She's a phenomenon, and it's so much fun to watch young people, not just little girls, but little boys who just adore the way she plays. I've got a nephew with 2 young ones up there in Iowa, and he sent me a picture, and their 2 kids were both wearing number 22. Again, 30, 35 years ago, that might not have happened. But I promise you, I have to give a little plug for my company. The University of Texas, I believe, was one of the first publicly funded institutions to really commit to women's athletics in a big way back in the mid 70s, and especially in the early 80s when the NCAA started sponsoring championships. We had a dynamic women's athletics director in Jody Conrad and Donna Lopiano. They were a leadership duo. Jody coached, Donna was the AD. They were given the reins by our campus president and officials to just say, build a first-class program. And we were averaging, by the end of the 80s, we were averaging 8,000 people a game down here and building a big program in swimming, track, tennis, golf, you name it, volleyball, all throughout. So I think Texas had a big part of, again, where we are today, and we take a great point of pride in it. But I think we are just scratching the surface, especially in this Olympic year. I mean, Paris, people will be riveted, not only to the men's participants, but the women's as well, because now women are household names.
Yep, you're absolutely right. And kudos to the University of Texas for being such a groundbreaker and helping to champion this through. That's outstanding. So we too really want to share our appreciation for what U of T has done for women. Now, in alignment with this year's theme, Inspire Inclusion, someone has asked, what tips can you share about moving the inclusion conversation forward without being perceived as, and I'll use the air quotes, difficult, as sometimes those discussions are labeled?
Yes, I think your opening video where you talked about letting everyone play, letting everyone in, and again, that welcoming feeling. When people are comfortable, they will contribute. And I think all of our jobs now in this environment today, which again can tend to be somewhat sticky, is to be measured, always factual, and yet again insisting on we are better when we have more differences. And again, I think just like we learn more from losses in athletics than we do from victories, I think we learn more with differences of opinion and conversations. We will all end up with a decision by committee, but to allow people to vet and to have opinions and definitely have input always leads to better outcomes.
Absolutely. Absolutely agree. Great point. I think we need to make more effort to bring those voices forward. And that's something that in Culture of Excellence, we're really striving for. You heard Karsten mention everyone's a leader. Everybody has a voice and can influence. And so that's an important part of the culture we're trying to build and establish as well. Another topic that came in from our attendees' responses was about motivation. And they asked, what advice would you have to help motivate a team of diverse skill sets and backgrounds coming together to work?
You know, this is that trust and team tandem. It again, successes are so much more enjoyable when you're part of something bigger than yourself. So the motivation certainly for your role comes from within, but really and truly being able to lock arms, link elbows with others to move something forward where it's going to result in the greater good for your company. That's what you relish. That's what teams do in sports. They practice every day. Practice can become mundane. Coaches actually, some of the best coaches I've ever been around will say, I love practices far more than games, but games are what count. So it's in those practice settings, I think, is where the magic of the motivation can come. And the games or the project, in this case for a company, is where the results will come out. But every day getting into a series of practicing and consistency with the same people and being together, that's the magic. Maybe that lessons in chemistry cooking show. That's where all those elements come together and a thing of beauty results.
Absolutely. And we all hopefully have had the opportunity to be part of a team that comes together that way. So, and if not, we'll continue to build that over the course of the next year or so. Now, Chris, one question that folks had, and it's a fun one for you, is do you still play basketball for fun?
I wish. I have a kind of a rickety left knee, but I will tell you, I will every once in a while get in a little shooting contest with the kids when they're on the court, but mostly my basketball passion is fulfilled by watching and attending games. And I was tickled yesterday. And when you talk about, again, today compared to yesterday, we had a young lady on our women's basketball team become the first freshman in 28 years of our conference. The Big 12 has existed for 28 years. A young lady from a tiny town in Mississippi, a freshman, become our Big 12 Player of the Year. So when you think about advancement, and it can be done, again, you think about the past. Would a freshman have ever been voted by a group of coaches to be a freshman of the year? Maybe not in the past, but today's a different day. And so I get my basketball Jones today watching Madison Booker play basketball at that high level.
That's fantastic. And agree, there are things happening every day that surprise us in a really positive way. Now, if we had one last closing piece of advice from you today, what would it be?
I think it's to know that you matter, your talent matters, you are all working at a great company if you're employed by Ricoh. And again, I would just say be inspired by paying it forward and helping someone else advance. Again, I've lived long enough in athletics to know that the best days are when I see a young person achieving something that maybe as a freshman they never thought they could do. And if somehow myself or anybody else among our employee base has played a tiny part in helping them get to that confident self-advocacy stage where I can take on the world and succeed, then we've all succeeded. So that would be my advice, is to turn left, turn right, look at the people around you. And again, if you're in a good spot, help somebody else get there as well.
Oh, fantastic advice. And Chris, I know I can speak for our entire audience that you have inspired us all today and given us some great takeaways and things to think about, whether it's the reading or whether it's some of the E, I, and D, as you said. It was fantastic. And we can't thank you enough for joining us today and for your partnership with Ricoh. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yep. Now I have the pleasure to hand it over to my colleague, Peter Stewart, our Executive Vice President of Office Sales for Ricoh North America. Peter.
Thank you, Donna. Thank you very much. And wow, Chris, first of all, thank you for your outstanding business partnership and for your inspiring speech on diversity and inclusion, which is a topic that is very, very close to my heart. I personally loved a lot of the key words used by Chris in how she described how everyone should be. For example, she used the words competitive, resilience, and we must have grit. However, we must do all of this by making everyone feel welcome, always striving for excellence, and simply just do it. Loved it, loved it, loved it, loved it. Chris also spoke about the importance of passion and competency and self-confidence, which all of these words resonate very closely with our attributes and culture of excellence at Ricoh. Great stuff. So before we discuss some of the key takeaways from the event, as well as some of the calls to action that we can all take, we want to take this opportunity to thank everyone for being here on this call today. We have great customers, team members, friends, and families listening in from all across North America. As we think about this year's theme, which is inspiring inclusion, it is important for us that we have representation across all people, which is a testament to all the progress that we have made, as well as the progress still underway, to have all of you here joining us today. So thank you. Thank you very much for being part of this event. Each year, on behalf of our participants in our event, Ricoh provides a donation to a non-for-profit organization that advances progress for women and girls. This year, we are proud to support a program near and dear to Chris's heart, which is called the Neighborhood Longhorns Program. The Neighborhood Longhorns Program is a premier educational outreach program for the University of Texas at Austin, offering elementary and middle school students the opportunity to envision attending college through incentives and scholarships. Each year, the program serves over 5,500 children in 38 participating schools and encourages them to put their lives on an educational track by providing tutoring, incentives, scholarships, and campus visits. This is achieved through the involvement of UT students, volunteers, and staff that provide tutoring and mentoring in participating Central Texas schools. At the end of our event today, we encourage you to learn more about this phenomenal and incredible program and their great mission. So with that said, it is a pleasure to turn over our final speaker today, Katina Bridges, who is the Director of Field Services at Ricoh.
Thank you, Peter, for sharing about the Neighborhood Longhorns program and how they support women and girls. So let's talk about the next steps, the call to action, the doing part of this celebration. So hopefully you've all noted some great takeaways from Chris's presentation, as I certainly have. But before we go, we want to share some additional food for thoughts about how we all, women and men alike, can take action to inspire inclusion today. So let's discuss 7 actionable items. You ready? Here we go. Number 1, we are asking that you consider mentoring a young girl or woman. We can all give the gift of time. Your expertise and caring are invaluable as we pave the way for the next generation of young women. Number 2, let's promote respect and belonging. When it comes to inclusion, people feel more apt to bring their authentic selves to the table when they feel comfortable, respected, and valued. I do recall a presentation from Earl Newsom. He shared that inclusion is often described as being invited to the dance. However, belonging is truly feeling comfortable to get out on the dance floor and do your dance, right? Yes. Number 3, actively help women and girls achieve their ambitions. Most people have multiple careers in their lifetime. Oftentimes, positive change is sparked by encouragement, an open door for someone to get to the next level. Number 4, we need to encourage women to apply for these positions within your organization. This is the best way to combat what's known as the broken rung. The broken rung refers to the trend that women do not move from the individual contributor role to a managerial role at the same rate as their male counterparts. The more women we encourage to become supervisors and managers, the more opportunities they will have to become leaders in our organizations. Number 5, create opportunities to share your own talent. Raise your hand. Small acts can grow tremendously. At the beginning of this call, Donna mentioned that Ricoh's very own International Day event started because a single individual came forward and raised her hand. That one moment in time paved the way for thousands of Ricoh team members around the world, as well as our customers, our family, and friends to engage in events like this one today. Number 6, ensure project teams reflect diverse talent within your organization. Don't seek the same people you know or colleagues who are notable or the first person that comes to your mind. Explore all options to engage good and different talent. And finally, number 7, listen, and again, I say listen to your female colleagues, your daughters, your wives, your family and friends. Listen to people's experiences and stories that may differ from your own, and listen to understand, not just to hear. New perspectives open new opportunities. And as always, we each have an opportunity to make a difference through advocacy and action. So, however you choose to inspire inclusion, your actions will impact progress for our global society. So with that said, we truly want to thank Chris for joining us today and sharing her incredible insight. I know that Donna and Peter recapped her very well, but I will say I took away learn how to be competitive in everything you do, as well as create the overall championship culture, which I believe we already have here at Ricoh. So in addition, we want to thank you all for attending today's event and keeping a keen focus on how we come together to drive positive change for women, girls, and all gender expansion people. But before you go, I need everyone to take out your cell phones and go to your camera mode and take a few minutes to scan our QR code that's currently on the screen and tell us what you thought about today's event. We absolutely take your feedback to heart. Your response will just help shape future events here at Ricoh. So thank you again for joining our celebration today in honor of International Women's Day. Together, let's all inspire inclusion for today and tomorrow. Thank you so much and have a great afternoon.
It's the same lesson you learned as a kid. Let everyone play. Not just your friends or the popular kids, but the ones who seemed different. The ones who just needed a chance. Not just because at one point or another, we all learned firsthand how it felt to be the one left out. But because we also learned the one who seemed different is quite often extraordinary.